And I'm Jadhon. We will get to those stories in just a moment, but first, happening now. Rain from today still causing issues tonight. Take a look. This is video from Wiley Drive in Roanoke just before the sunset. Continuing our coverage tonight of a new Congress in session. Convening today for the 115th Congress, members new and old are being sworn in and getting to work. Kelly Meyer is live in our Washington, D.C. bureau after catching up with one newly elected representative getting sworn in for the first time. Now at 5, we are following breaking news. A house catches fire in South Roanoke. We are told one firefighter was taken to the hospital. Dr. Denton, Governor McAuliffe was in 6 districts today, including here in Roanoke in the 21st. He says with just one seat, he could expand Medicaid. How realistic is that? More than 100 people were arrested. Some were hurt, and there was certainly destruction in several areas of Washington, D.C. today and even now into the evening. Live from the campus of Liberty University and Williams Stadium, where President Donald Trump spoke this morning. Ralph Northam took a lead early in the night, and that momentum continued. Take a look at these numbers. He won with a fairly wide margin. Roanoke County Public Schools owns the land. It's on Bent Mountain. David Pogue says he just can't afford to pay what the school system is asking. If the Affordable Care Act is on the way out, how are local hospitals preparing? Today, senior reporter Joe DeShiel put that question to Nancy Agee, the president and CEO of Reel1 Clinic. Cool video alert. Check it out. It's already time to pick out a pumpkin. And Air 7 captured Sinkland Farms in Christiansburg, flying over the pumpkin patch there. You can see there are pumpkins all over, just ready to be picked. I love the Air 7 vantage points. Brent, it's hard to think about even picking a pumpkin out, though, when it feels like summer out there.
No, big changes coming up, though, by the time they have their festival this weekend.
You can see just how close it was to Virginia. A lot of you said you felt it in the New River Valley. A lot of social media posts. The quake was a 3.1. It hit about 1:30 this afternoon. Let's head now to Ian Cassette, meteorologist Ian Cassette, with more. Ian, I know some folks on Facebook, one woman said windows rattled, another said horses started running. So a ton of people felt this afternoon.
For this region.
I know a lot of people heard it and felt it too. So we'll be back with you a little bit later. Thanks, Ian. Amtrak is rolling into Roanoke in about 5 weeks. It's coming up soon, and a lot of you are already buying tickets. But police are also keeping an eye on the schedule. WDBJ7 Sarah Maki is here to explain. So, Sarah, tell us where you are for starters.
Know about the problem.
Right, getting the word out makes perfect sense. Sarah Maki in downtown Roanoke, thank you. Well, after the morning fog, it was a gorgeous afternoon out there. Let's check in with meteorologist Brent Watts. Felt like summer again, and we are officially still in summer, so kind of felt nice out there.
Yeah, I got about another week.
Just a few days ago, they say a man walked up to 3 boys and asked them to get in his truck. It all happened here on Hickok Street at a church playground in Christiansburg that is open to the community. WDBJ7's Justin Ward is live at the park now. Justin, is this an area where things like this are known to happen?
And yell if this happens to them. Jean?
All right, yeah, good lesson for all children to know about. Justin, thank you. And police in Roanoke are investigating a similar incident. This one happened yesterday just before 10 in the morning on Melrose Avenue at Forest Park Academy. That is where a student said an older man in a 4-door red pickup truck followed her to school. She told police the man had followed her around Christmas time last year.
Happening now.
One Roanoke County mom was the picture of health.
You just never expect it when you're fit, young, healthy, just had a baby and everything's fine.
Until something went terribly wrong. Her message for new mothers coming up. She had a baby and then not long after had a heart attack. Now this Roanoke County mother has a warning for other new moms. It's a message that could save your life. This is Union Station. You can see a line of buses, all of the people coming into the city to see the inauguration, and people have been streaming in along this sidewalk all morning long as well. You can see the Capitol, it's in the distance there, and a big bus going by now. United States Capitol Police security is tight here, tons of barricades, a lot of people converging on the nation's capital, and we're seeing a lot of vendors out on the streets taking advantage of all of the people who are here, including this guy who's here from Tennessee. What are you selling?
Hats, buttons, souvenirs, anything with Trump and Pence on it.
You said you've been here since 6 this morning.
Yes,
what's the biggest seller? Show me.
Today has been any of the buttons with Mr. Trump's name on it, the presidential seal, and of course today's date.
A lot of festivities today, Donald Trump taking the oath of office, but there were also a lot of protests. More than 100 people were arrested, some were hurt, and there was certainly destruction in several areas of Washington, D.C. today and even now into the evening. We will get to more on that in just a moment, but first, Donald Trump was sworn in as the nation's 45th president. That was certainly the theme of President Trump's inaugural address today, saying this is a transfer of power from the government to the people of America. Trump also led a parade, as you just saw, from Capitol Hill down Pennsylvania Avenue and arrived at the White House just a little while ago. Tonight, though, not much time to rest. The president will be going to 3 inaugural balls. Back now, though, to those protests, which are still going on right now in some areas of Washington, D.C. We are told at least 100 people have been arrested. We know that there has been some violence. A report that at least one reporter was punched at one of those protests. Tear gas was deployed at another. Jamie Yuccas is covering it all and has the latest.
Jamie Yuccas, CBS News, Washington.
WDBJ7's Joe DeShiel was in the thick of some of those protests today. He told me a little bit earlier that there were protesters at the National Mall that were actually blocking some of the Trump supporters from getting into the ticketed area to see the swearing-in ceremony. Joe DeShiel is working on that story. He will bring the latest for you coming up tonight at 6. I also spoke to a reporter from another television station who says a journalist was injured in one of those protests, is expected to be okay, but nonetheless, there has been some violence here in Washington, D.C. tonight. Good evening. I'm Jean Jadhon, live from the campus of Liberty University and Williams Stadium, where President Donald Trump spoke this morning. The president arrived on schedule this morning at Lynchburg Regional Airport. Air Force One touched down a little bit after 9, and then the president joined a motorcade, which included Liberty University's president, Jerry Falwell Jr., which made its way to campus. The president was given an honorary degree, and then he spoke to 50,000 people.
Join with me in welcoming.
We don't worship government, we worship God.
Faith in God, big themes of today's speech. The president also talked about liberty's growth. And yes, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, actually announced the list of teams that the Liberty football team will play this year now that it is a member of the FBS. Zach Glover will have that coming up in sports. I'll give you a little teaser. Auburn is one of those teams. Joe DeShiel talked to students after today's speech to see what they thought about it. He is down on the field at Williams Stadium. Joe, what were students saying? What was their reaction today?
Well, Gene, glad he came.
Certainly so, Joe. And I know the president actually thanked the crowd for coming out and voting for him and helping him win the White House last fall. Good evening. I'm Jean Jadhon, live with team coverage here from Carroll County, where this community is heartbroken after the loss of one of its own, Deputy Curtis Bartlett, killed in a crash last night. You can see behind me black ribbon on a sheriff's deputy's car out here in front of the sheriff's office as a way to remember a fallen comrade. It was last night at about 10 o'clock that Curtis Bartlett was heading west on Route 58, coming up on the interchange with Interstate 77 at the exact same time a tractor trailer was exiting the interstate. The two vehicles collided and Deputy Bartlett was killed. The driver of the tractor trailer was not hurt, and we are told is not facing charges. State police do say that Deputy Bartlett had his lights and sirens going at the time of that crash. You can see the drill field looking back toward Norris Hall, where most of those shootings happened 10 years ago, and we noticed a congregation of people down on the drill field. My colleague Eamon O'Mara ran across the drill field to see what was going on. He came back and said, it's yoga. I asked him, is this something that's part of the weekend activities? And yes, it is. Many of us know yoga is spiritual, it's healing, and it also gives people a chance to think about the victims, think about the loss here on Virginia Tech's campus. We will have much more coverage coming up live from here at Virginia Tech. We leave you now with another look at the campus 10 years after that horrible day in 2007. A Roanoke doctor was at the airport just moments before the shooter opened fire. Dr. Gregory Aloof joins me now by phone from Fort Lauderdale. Dr. Aloof, you flew from Roanoke to Fort Lauderdale this morning and had just gone through that same baggage claim area, you say, a few moments before the shootings, correct?
Yeah, this is correct, Gene.
And where exactly were you then?
Yes, we took a Delta flight from Roanoke to Atlanta to Fort Lauderdale, and actually went right into the baggage claim where the active shooter started to wreak havoc minutes later after I'd left.
And you said you jumped in a rental car, started heading away from the airport. Then what? What did you hear?
Yeah, just got to the rental car. There were tons of police cars coming in very quickly from the opposite direction.
Wow, Dr. Ayla, if you just missed this by seconds, it sounds like. Are you shaken up? What are you thinking at this point?
Yeah, I'm only 15 minutes. Yeah, I'm a little shaken, but by the grace of God, things are well here, and prayers go out to the families that were affected.
Dr. Greg Aluth, traveling from Roanoke to Fort Lauderdale, just missing that shooting by a few moments. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Jean, are you big Jeopardy fan?
I love Jeopardy. I love playing Jeopardy. And sometimes the categories, I whiz through them, and other times I don't know one answer in a whole category.
What's that?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how this teacher did.
Yeah.
And I also wonder, you think, oh, it always seems easier at home than it does when you're there. But Jeopardy can be tough even when you're at home.
Oh, very much so.
I'm excited for that interview. Craigslist and other online sales sites, you may have used them. They can be useful when you're trying to find used items cheap. But before you meet the seller, make sure you're safe. Continuing our snow coverage, they are bracing for the most snow in Southside. That is where we find WDBJ7's Sarah Maki live right now. Sarah, what are shoppers picking up there? We know people are mostly stocking up on necessities, right?
I'll have the latest at 11 tonight.
That makes sense, though. People are getting out of work. They want to get everything they need and head home. Sarah, we'll see you in a little bit. Thanks. Weather is not the only thing causing travel issues at airports across the South. You've likely heard about the shootings at an airport in Florida. WDBJ7's Logan Sherrill joins us now live from the Roanoke-Blacksburg Regional Airport. Logan, are travelers there on edge after today's shootings?
Could neutralize a situation like that rather quickly. Jean?
Everybody thinking about this today for sure. Logan, thanks. Liquidation sales at 2 local Kmart stores will begin as soon as tomorrow. The stores are scheduled to close by spring. Sears Holdings announced yesterday that this Kmart store on Hirschberger Road in Roanoke and the location on West Main Street in Salem are among 78 stores across the country shutting down. Those retailers are among a handful of companies closing stores in our region. The J. Crew clearance store in Lynchburg will be gone by next week. And yesterday we learned Macy's will close its River Ridge Mall store. WDBJ7's Tim Saunders is live outside the mall tonight. Tim, what is driving this? Is it just poor sales? We have some other stories to talk about, though. We're going to downtown Roanoke, where some businesses are facing one big problem, and it has to do with number 2. Yeah, the Virginia Museum of Transportation says they've been dealing with a number of people who let their dogs doo-doo and don't clean it up. They attribute it to the rise in downtown apartment living.